Cuzzin, you ready?
Yeah.
Cheers.
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 Welcome to Tabbi Hour Podcast.
Welcome,
you for-
everyone.
Brought
Welcome
to
back.
you by the Barber Collective and Magnetic South Brewery.
Who's the Barber Collective?
The Barber Collective.
Oh, the Barber Collective. That's who keeps us looking fresh and fly.
Yeah, I went and saw Gabriel today. Today we've got Mary Hipp from the Feed and Seed. Fresh food for local families, support local farmers.
You got it. And I appreciate the invitation. I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate the extensive tour of the amazing facility you've built and excited to hear the story. So let's start with, you're from Greenville.
Technically, splitting hairs, no.
Okay. Where are you from?
I was born in San Mateo, but we moved here when I was 3,
Where's San Mateo?
California, right outside
I
of San
thought that was
Francisco.
somewhere in South Carolina.
Well, it's always been a running joke because, everybody, my dad was 3rd generation Greenville, and there was the assumption that I'm a native Greenvillian. Apparently, I have achieved native Greenvillian due to the amount of time I have spent in Greenville. But if you were going to absolutely split hairs, my brother and I are not native South
How
Carolinians.
long do you have to be here to be native?
I have no clue, but people keep telling me, you're
Yeah.
native. You're native.
How long you been here?
Well, we moved here and I've been back for 18 years, but I left for 22 years.
Yeah, you're from here.
definitely
You're
native.
from here.
I think if you've lived here longer than you've
No, I
lived
don't think
anywhere.
you can say native. I think you have to say like I claim South Carolina. Like I'm from South Carolina. I've been here long enough, but I'm not a native. But I'm from here.
Okay, I'm a South Carolinian, but I'm not a native. If we're going to split hairs.
Yeah, you're from here. Yeah.
But only South Carolinians want to split those hairs.
Ooh, yeah.
So what took you, what year did you leave?
1982,
And what made you leave?
high school.
Okay.
I went to boarding school in Rhode Island. I went to college in Virginia.
Where in Rhode Island?
Newport.
Oh, so I spent a good chunk of my after college years in Providence.
Okay, well, my niece is at RISD right now.
Oh, so my uncle is a professor at RISD.
I wonder if they're working together.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Small world.
That I can approve. I can agree. But then I left, graduated from Washington Lee, moved to New Zealand, then moved to Crestview, Colorado, then moved to Atlanta, Georgia, then moved to San Francisco, California, and then boomeranged back here in 2005.
And what was it that took you all over the place?
Anything. Food. Actually, quite honestly, food. New Zealand was not food. It was a dear friend of mine who had married a Kiwi. I missed her wedding. So I went over to stay for a couple of months. 11 and a half months later, I left. But I ended up in Crestview, Colorado for restaurant, then Atlanta, working for a restaurant, and then I ended up in San Francisco to go to culinary school. Which was supposed to be 9 months, and 10 years later, I returned.
What was your focus in the culinary world?
So our culinary school was geared towards people who had already been in the restaurant business for a significant amount of time. So it's not the 2-year program. It was a 9-month program. So it was developing your knife skills, your palate, your instincts, your smells, and taste. So we covered everything. It was not focused primarily. French is the base, but French is the base for everything because it's all the terminology and everything.
Got it. And then, so trying to kind of weave the story to back.
I know,
to
that's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of ocean jumping.
Yeah. So, and then what year back to Greenville?
2005.
2005. And what was it that brought you back to Greenville?
Well, to be honest, I found out that my brother and sister's combined mortgages was less than my rent in San Francisco.
That checks out. Yeah.
That's what brought me here too. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, really. When I was paying $2,000 a month for rent in 2004, and then I moved down
You were
here
only paying $2,000?
in Rhode Island. Yeah.
I was paying $3,500.
Which is now $7,000.
which is now-
in San
yeah.
Francisco.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and I didn't have parking.
Oh, geez.
And there's a
But-
lot more crack now than there was then.
Yeah. So literally, it was my lease was coming up, my job contract was coming up, my brother and sister's mortgages were where they were. My peers were leaving San Francisco, getting married and moving on. It was like, if you are going to leave the city, this is the time to do it. So I came back to Greenville to figure out where I was going to live in the Southeast, which hell or high water was not going to be Greenville. Because I had a very early 80s impression of Greenville. What was, people thought it was weird that I left. All my peers were married with children. It was a completely, where's the food scene?
There was no downtown, right?
Downtown was starting because Peace Center had opened about a decade before. Liberty Bridge opened in 2005. So there was a downtown happening, but I hadn't registered that there was a downtown.
Because when you left, it was still big textile mills.
No, downtown rolled up at 5:00. I have vivid memories when I got my driver's license so I could drive at night. My younger brother and his buddy, Will, saying, will you drive us down Main Street so we can see what a prostitute looks like?
Are there lots of them running around?
Well, I tell you, I think the word they used was hooker because prostitute was a little too big of a word for them at the time. But yes, so literally that was the impression of downtown.
Well, and that's the stories that I used to hear about downtown. It's you could tell what color they were dyeing the fabric at the mill by the color of the river. And then on Friday was bubbles. It's because they were cleaning everything.
I've heard multiple stories of this. My first impression of Greenville was 2020.
Oh gosh, you've got a very, very
so I have a very
bright
high opinion of the whole, but understand the history of it. So,
but you also have to. You look at. I know we're not supposed to be talking about downtown Greenville, but that whole Falls Park.
Talk about whatever you want to.
Where Mary's Cottage is.
Yeah.
That was all kudzu, and it was a dumping. I used to what is called marriage was cottage cuisine at one point. That was my first cooking job in Greenville, and I did it for the summer before I moved to New Zealand. Literally, that hill was filled with tires, condoms, washing machines. You couldn't see the river. You could smell the river. So, none of that existed.
So what year did it start to turn around?
Well, I guess your definition of...
where it would
the
be
Peace Center opened in
by...
1990, and that became an anchor.
So when you came back in 04, or 05, it was...
Liberty Bridge had just opened when I got back.
But was there a food scene yet? Was there a
There
bar scene
was a
yet?
significant food scene compared to what there had been, but it was a lot of Southern, and I don't mean hard, but haute Southern maybe. But even just the fact that there were lunch places downtown. That was, are you serious?
Yeah.
But I think the real turn, probably 2010, when we started getting a lot of diversity in the cuisine, and then you brought in Euphoria, and that really not only highlighted Greenville's food scene, it challenged Greenville's food scene to take it to another level. And then when you start seeing it move into Travelers Rest and Simpsonville and Malden and the other communities around here, the food scene's arrived in the upstate.
Yeah. I've talked to multiple people, really just even this year, about how the Greenville area, right, GSP, if you will, has really become a foodie destination. Carl Sobienski's done a great job. All these big restaurateurs downtown that are, just popping off stuff. There's a lot. And then there's the honey holes. There's Berea with, all the good, Central American cuisine, the Jamaican spots, the Afghan spot. There is so much food. It feels like you're living in a huge major city with the amount of diversity in the food scene. And it's crazy to have it in a small,
there's at least one of everything, right?
There's at least one of everything.
Yeah.
And then there's probably really three. And then there's the one you prefer, right?
Yeah.
I do still think on some of the ethnic foods, you still have to search for it, and you have to be willing to go. They're not white tablecloths, which I prefer them not being white tablecloths. Bless you, cousin.
I want that. I want to walk in and feel like I shouldn't be there,
Yes.
and then I know
Yes.
I'm there.
Yes.
I feel even better.
And quite honestly, they want you there.
They do.
They want you there.
Life of the party.
Look, I got family like that lives in Central America, from Central America. I go to a lot of Hispanic, Spanish restaurants. I'll start talking Spanish. I'll have 4 or 5 beers. We're cutting up. We're having fun. Yeah, and it's just like that. I mean, that culture, that food scene is my favorite, right?
Yeah.
From tacos to empanadas to torta, like all of that. Like that is my comfort food more than a country fried steak.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those people, when you walk into somebody's house and they've converted it into a commercial kitchen, I'm at home, right? I'm going to jump right in there. I'm going to order my food. I'm going to try to speak the language.
Or if you're feeding seed, you'll just go in the kitchen and cook your own food.
Well,
No,
I
he
do
doesn't
that.
go in and cook. He just goes in and demands what he wants to eat.
I demand nicely.
He does demand
I
nicely.
say please and thank you.
And then while he is waiting for whatever food he has requested, he does request a cookie.
yeah, I
That
always
checks
eat a
out.
cookie.
I
on
just
the
had
way.
one of those cookies. They're delicious.
And I think he has a radar on when the cookies come out of the oven because he always walks up right when he goes, is that warm?
They're so good, coming right out the oven.
I got it. So speaking of feed and seed,
Really, the Joshes back there. You have 3 Joshes now, don't you?
Let's not get into
They
the
got
J
Josh Squared, right? They got Blondie Josh, who works like the line that you see
But
behind
he's
the
one
counter.
that bakes everything.
But he can make a mean cookie. I mean, they're really good.
Yeah. So
And then you have the other Josh. He makes mean hot sauce. Josh Griff. He makes the Griff Reaper, Shadow Griff Reaper.
is that the stuff that you have at?
We had, yeah. We're
was
currently
really-
out of the hot
that was
sauce.
really
but
good, yeah.
And I think he makes it all with you guys, right? Because you guys have the
we have the commissary kitchen.
commissary kitchen.
So what is feed and seed?
Feed and seed is a harebrained idea that has become reality to address a challenge that is quite invisible. So we are a nonprofit food hub. We have a market and a cafe, which you have visited,
Yeah.
which you know well.
By the way, just listeners know they are next door neighbors, kind of, sort of, at Judson Mill, right next to the brewery, closer to the Blockhaven side. But yeah, so
Although I knew Cuzzin before.
we
Just
frequent often.
look for the giant warehouse. sign.
We are in the warehouse section of a renovated Milliken Mill. We have 18,000 square feet. So we have the market, we have the cafe, we have a community room, we have a warehouse, we have a double-sided loading dock, we have a wash and pack house, we have a processing facility to address food waste, we have a commissary kitchen, we have a commercial kitchen. You've been there. You know, it's not a straight line. But basically what our goal, our mission is to make fresh food affordable to everyone in South Carolina and help create a sustainable agricultural system. So that means everything from supporting farmers to making food available to communities who don't have fresh food.
And so just to unpack that a little bit, I mean, and I've toured it, you've explained it. It's just a lot to comprehend.
It is a lot.
How big of an operation it is.
It is, and it's hard. It's hard to explain a lot of times. I mean, I can tell you we've got 18,000 square feet in a market and cafe, blah 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 blah. But till you see it, you don't see the expansiveness of this project. I mean, and this has been 10, 12 years in the making. So this did not happen overnight at all. And the iteration that happened in 2014 to what we opened in 2022, they don't look anything alike. But I think those 10 years gave us the time to say, what are the real needs of the community? I cut you off on your question. What were you asking?
No, I'm just trying to help myself and everybody listening to understand sort of start to finish how you got there, maybe the story of where did this idea come from for you? What really drove that idea to make you go do it? And then what are the the intricate details of how many sweet potatoes you can process and then preserve for 18 months, which is crazy. And these farmers that are lose. I didn't realize that, if they can't sell their crop, they don't harvest it, which means it all this wasted food.
Yeah.
So you're
and
basically
that's wasted food on the farm. We're not even talking about wasted food from your kitchen.
right. And then your ability to kind of keep that reasonably priced so it's accessible to everybody.
Right. And that's part of the reason we are a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of research of, is it a for-profit, is it a nonprofit? But to truly support, we needed to be a non. If we become for-profit in 10 years, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
We just change our status. But so in 2012, I was working on my Liberty Fellowship project.
And what is that?
Liberty Fellowship is a statewide leadership initiative.
Okay.
It's through the Aspen Institute, Socratic Thinking and Debate. So we can do another show on that. But I am a Liberty Fellow, and I was working on my Liberty Fellowship class. My project. Each individual has a project, and it was addressing the nutritional levels in the Greenville County school lunches. The time there had been a proposal to the USDA to improve the school lunches so that French fries and ketchup are not considered two vegetables, because ketchup was considered a vegetable at the time. So if you got French fries and ketchup, you had your two veggies for the day. So the hope was that those would be...
That was like a checkbox for somebody.
Yeah.
Like someone on a list at one time was like, hey, we're going to give them a piece of meatloaf. We're going to give them some French fries and ketchup. And that's two vegetables and a meat.
And they got a protein. I never knew that the ketchup lobby was so strong. The weird things you learn.
People out there lobbying for ketchup and mustard.
Did you know there was a ketchup lobby? There is a ketchup lobby. But
no, there is not. Is it like really?
I mean,
Yes.
Heinz is a...
yes.
I mean, that is insane.
Yes. But point being is all the regulations didn't go through the USDA, but the Greenville County schools decided that they were going to take the higher baseline that had been proposed and pursue it. And I was working with them on that. And one of the things that came out of the conversations of working with a gentleman named Ron Jones was, I want to buy more local produce, but I don't have the bandwidth to do it. And I can promise you small farmers who actually usually have a day job didn't have the bandwidth to do it either. And so we're like, how do we fix this system? Met a gentleman named Mike McGurr, who was working on food systems. Met a gentleman named Scott Park, who's working with the county and the food inaccessibility reports. And this is all 2012, 13. And then this concept of what are the missing pieces? And we really went back to, we've got the farmers, we've got the end users, we have no infrastructure to connect them.
Because most farmers, right, like they're, if you're a tomato farmer, which I know is absent to just think you're only growing tomatoes.
There is a fabulous tomato farmer in the north of Greenville.
Really?
Yes.
Well, excellent. But so those guys don't have the means to really to go to Greenville County and say, hey, Greenville County schools, buy my tomatoes, because they're not processed or anything,
They've got to be washed a certain way. They've got to be packed in a certain box. It has to have a certain barcode, and leafy greens have different boxes than broccoli, and some have wax and some don't have wax.
Yeah, you're not just like delivering this.
You can't do this in the school system.
You can't just bring them a box of, here's a Rubbermaid tub of tomatoes, use them in the pasta sauce you're going to make today.
We can take the Rubbermaid container of tomatoes.
And then you process them in.
A school system cannot do that.
But and we'll get into all the equipment and things, but okay.
Well,
so you get the tomatoes from a tomato farmer. We derailed you. Keep going.
Where were we?
So you were
closet. Do we have a closet? Where were we? Oh yeah,
the missing links.
Yeah. So, we're gonna get a mic in the closet.
We got more missing links than we realized. So it was creating that that system.
Infrastructure.
It's the infrastructure and it's the system. And as I've mentioned, this is 4.0. So we've been through 4 iterations of what Feed and Seed was possibly going to be before we landed where we are now. And what we discovered is it is providing not only infrastructure, but infrastructure support. So we work a lot with the institutional market, which the farmers were required to be GAP certified, good agricultural practices, which is just food safety traceability. So all the farmers have to be GAP certified who go into the institutional market. It is expensive. The equipment is expensive and the employment is expensive. Or our facility is GAP certified. Now, we will work with that farmer to get GAP certified and help them find the resources and everything like that. But we have now taken that financial burden off of them.
So if I'm a farmer, I don't have to be GAP certified because I can sell my produce to you.
You can. Now, it may not end up in the institutions depending on what certifications you do have, but we can take that off. And if we can process it through our GAP Plus certification, then it can go into the institutional market.
You just said certifications, like plural. Like there's like...
Well, there's all kinds of certifications and there's all kinds of acronyms.
So you can't just like grow produce and sell it and people
to
buy
Francis
it.
Produce and call it good. No. No.
Okay. I mean,
That is insane.
I mean, there's been
Well,
enough
a lot of that is food
foodborne
traceability,
illness. Yeah.
foodborne illnesses, and all that kind of stuff. And I respect that. But
Yeah.
quite honestly, a lot of that came from farms going big ag, because they need that traceability so they can figure out what row that piece of dirty lettuce came from. The guy with the 5-10 acre farm over here has to have that same level of certification, but it's going to take us 3 seconds to figure out where it came from.
Yeah. I mean, this is a tangent, but what are some of the most dangerous foods that are like hard? I know that like sliced tomatoes can be really, because of the acidity from a foodborne illness standpoint.
Lettuce, leafy greens,
sprouts.
leafy greens. Boom.
What's the foodborne illness called?
Listeria.
Listeria, yeah.
Yep.
And
I guess I'm just not up to date on my
that's still-
foodborne. Like I thought you were
And
only
that-
getting sick from bad
that's
beef
still pretty
and
common in
bad
the US, right?
fish.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's from watering and where the water comes from.
Interesting. So just talking through like the process of
Okay, so I'll give you the sweet potato story. Remember the sweet potato story I told you at the
You guys
warehouse?
They make really good sweet potato fries.
I have some.
The French fries?
Yeah.
French fries or just the potatoes?
No, he's
Freeze
got,
dried. Freeze dried.
he got the freeze dried ones.
They were over there frying sweet potatoes the other day. I had some sweet potato French fries that were bueno.
I love sweet potatoes.
I eat sweet potatoes.
I love sweet potatoes with my favorite two.
When you walked into these guys, I was like, oh yeah.
Fruit and a vegetable.
Well, you can have
blueberry
these.
ketchup.
Yeah, so all of this is local. This is a perfect example of what we're dealing with right now. We got sweet potatoes, we've got butternut squash, and we've got apples.
That's a giant sweet potato.
Okay, this goes back to our sweet potato story.
It's a great looking apple too.
That's Holt Farms.
I was gonna have a bite of that apple,
You
but
can.
I thought it might be poison from that. What was that movie? A Disney movie?
You think Mary
Sleeping
Hipp
Beauty?
brought poisonous apples?
Cousin,
I don't know. Maybe I take a bite of the apple and maybe asleep until my true love.
you spend too much money at Feed and Seed for me to kill you. So this is a great example. Sweet potatoes. This is what they call a second or B grade. It's not pretty. It's not round. It's not what you see in the grocery store. No. So we bought 10 tons of B grade sweet potatoes from a farm down in Lawrence, Crescent Farms. And
Just
some
to
of
give-
them were 5 pounds.
Just to give the idea of 10 tons, one of those on a pallet, those cardboard,
Yeah, that's a ton.
that's 1 ton.
Yep.
So one pallet in that big cardboard thing you see at Sam's Club, that's a ton of
That's a ton of sweet potatoes.
And you had how many tons?
10 tons, but we're getting them now again. So this is stuff that she would have composted, tilled under, ignored, sold for pennies on the dollar, whatever.
Like discard. These are throw them away. We don't care about these.
25 cents. Just take. That's
and
20.
This is A grade.
That's A grade. That's what you see in the grocery store.
They look the same.
So what is the process to get this, to this form from the farm to
your tummy?
Very conveniently pre-sliced,
peeled and diced.
What we're having for dinner tonight.
That's butternut squash, sweet potatoes. So we bought 10,000 pounds, 10 tons of sweet potatoes from a farmer down in Lawrence, Crescent Farms, that would have otherwise gone to waste or sold pennies on the dollar. We peeled them, we sliced them, we made them into sweet potato French fries, we flash froze them, we got them into the Clemson food system, and then pork farmers came and picked up the sweet potato peels to use as feed. So
zero waste.
So Crescent Farms got although not robust, not market like retail price, but a wholesale price for a bunch of potatoes that she would not have been able to sell. We've got local product into Clemson University, and then we have given the pork farmers additional revenue since they don't have to buy feed, which means she gets to expand her crops, he gets to expand his production, and we have local product within South Carolina food system.
Do you do that for all your produce really waste? You give it all like the skins and ends and whatever to pork farmers?
We definitely try
or
to.
Cows, really any livestock,
any
correct?
Livestock that wants it. It does. I have to confess, it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
They don't always show up, or it's something that's viable. But weird things. So during the pandemic, Feed and Seed worked out at Greenville Farms. We were running our freeze dryers, and we're known for our freeze dried strawberries. Fess up here, cousin.
They're real nice.
So
I've actually used them in a beer, and I've used their freeze dried beets in a beer. This month is October, Cancer Awareness Month. We've made 2 different pink beers. One pink beer I use using their
bless you.
Thank you. Their okay, maybe I'll finish it this time. Using their beet powder, and the other I took their froze dried strawberries, grinded them to a powder, and then dosed that in the beer to get it to turn color the bank, So there's multiple uses.
Yeah, the applications we didn't think about when we opened, but we bought. I think we processed 800 to 900 gallons of strawberries, either freeze dried or flash frozen. That kept that strawberry farmer in business because one of his sole contracts was Greenville County Schools. Schools were shut down.
Oh.
So it's little things like that. But, our goal is to be what I refer to as closed loop, out of the ground, back into the ground. Does it always work? No.
This is maybe a really complex question from too high of a level, but how fragile is our food infrastructure system?
Fragile.
Yeah. I think we all, the average person like myself
takes
it for granted.
Yeah, there's no reason why you would know. And there's no reason why I would know if I hadn't been on this journey.
Pretty sure you're an expert at this point.
On this journey as long as I have. And the running joke is, am I stubborn or stupid? I went into this with just, how do I get local apples into the Greenville County school system? And look where we are now.
These are some of the best looking apples.
Those are from North Carolina. That's Holt Orchard.
Just good looking.
My favorite orchard's Justice, but that's just because me and my wife have been going there for 5 years now. We go now with our dog just to take a picture.
Look, we've got
some donuts and a piece of blueberry.
But the great thing about Holt is when they deliver their apples on Mondays, it's always right when we're having our management meeting, and they bring us 2 dozen apple cider donuts.
Oh, wow.
Those are my favorite.
So
And
I'm going to have a staff boycott. Apple season.
So one other thought that I had on the sweet potatoes, just because I happened to be there when you guys were processing part of this 10 tons of sweet potatoes, right? So the potatoes come in. You have multiple options of machinery that you can use.
So it goes through the washroom.
And
the little
because when you get them, they're coming straight out the dirt.
Yeah, no, they're coming in dirty.
Yeah.
They're coming in dirty.
And so what is the requirement to sell these to, say, Clemson? And what's the cleaning process like?
So we've got these 2 wash runs, which are basically vegetable dishwashers. And we can control the water, so it could be really hard for a sweet potato or a carrot, or really soft for a green pepper, just depending on what the product is. And if it's something really dirty, like a sweet potato, we have 2. So it comes in one, gets loaded up, goes
And you're
through
just
the
using
other.
water, straight water.
Straight water.
No
These are
chemical.
mostly organic vegetables and stuff coming in.
We do not limit ourselves to organic, and there is a reason for that. First of all, to be organic certified is expensive and long.
And it's a headache. We made one beer at Thomas Creek when I worked there. That was 100% organic.
Well, it takes
Organic malt and all that. And it was to like every month, the paperwork and
So it takes 5 years to be even organic certified. And then you have all this reporting. So you will see a lot of people say we're all natural, which means basically you've gone as far as you want to go without having to deal with the cost and the headache of the certification.
And who does the certification? That the FDA or is there
USDA.
USDA? But so all natural still could mean no pesticides. It's clean. It's
Plus, our growing environment in the upstate is so great. If anybody uses anything, it's way early in the growing process with the little itty bitty weeds. We don't need things to help because we're not massive.
Not lots of
ag.
herbicides and pesticides.
Yeah, we're not huge ag where you're trying to grow.
Crop dusting.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our, and that's one of the reasons why I think where Feed and Seed is situated so well, is most of the farms in our region are small. And it's because of our topography. We're rolling hills.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 5,000 acres of something. You're just not. Now, you go down, you've got soybeans and cotton down on, Midlands and the coast.
Corn, right? That's
A lot
rice,
less tobacco. People are being paid out to quit growing tobacco. But
why?
A lot of
Who's
rice and
growing
corn, though, right?
we're a lot of corn, a lot of soybeans.
What's that rice?
Wait, so hold on.
Carolina
The tobacco.
Gold.
Carolina
so
Gold.
the Carolinas, I mean, historically, I grew up in North Carolina.
Right.
They're known for the tobacco.
Yeah.
Philip Morris isn't stopping making cigarettes. Why are they being incentivized not to grow tobacco?
So, and that's, there is a very complicated answer for that. But my sister-in-law's father was a tobacco farmer, and he was incentivized to change his crop, and he became a turf grower.
Like turf, like
For like sod and
Yep,
stuff.
sod.
like rolling it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. And why, like, in a short answer, I know it can go down a road. Why? Why stop? I mean,
other than tobacco gives you cancer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it may have been in the 80s or so when they banned cigarette commercials and everybody was convinced that everybody was going to quit smoking, and therefore, I don't know the answer
and
to
now we
that.
have 5 new ways to get your
To
nicotine
smoke.
in, right?
But
Nicotine's not bad for you.
Let me get back to the sweet potatoes.
I'm sorry.
So the pig farmer's taking his stuff. Margie's got her cash crop. Clemson has their French fries. But then what we also do is, as you mentioned, we then peel and chop it. So rather than buying this massive thing, you can come and buy pre-chopped, peeled and chopped sweet potatoes. So I've just taken 7 minutes off of your
Look,
work day.
Mary, I'm not going to lie. When me and my wife, Ingles is the closest thing to our house besides Bob and Lisa's, and they're closed for the year. So when we got to go do our little quick grocery shopping, most of the Ingles now have that prep center in their produce area. And I at least know Ingles, they try to source as local as they can for a lot of their stuff.
And they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. I know there's like in Mills River, there's that whole farm right past that Ingalls on Haywood Road, you know, that like it's got the big sign like, hey, we grow produce for Ingalls. But they have that chopping station. I'm a big fan, and I've bought some at Feed and Seed of prepared vegetables where I don't got to cut an onion. I'm going to buy this onion already cut up in this tub. And all I got to do is dump it in, and I'm stir frying, or the stir fry,
or a better person that knows how to cut it better than
they
us.
got the mandolin or the Roboku. Yeah. You know, like, and I'm buying this.
Roto-Rooter is for the toilet. Roboku is for the kitchen.
I'm buying the pre-made, like it's got onions, peppers. It's the stir fry mix. All I got to do is add chicken or whatever.
But they do all that, and it's right.
They do
it's
all
literally
that.
in the
Well,
same
that-
parking lot for you.
But that's
And they
the
do beef broth, chicken broth. I mean, I'm talking
wow.
about like, you know, I just walk next
milk,
door now.
eggs, cheese. So,
it's
but
well, and we've already said this, but when you walk in the little corner, this it's a good sized little produce spot, and then the counter. And you and I met, and you're like, all right, let me show you the actual building. You go in this little tiny door, and then it is just this
keeps going.
elaborate
Keeps going.
4 freezers.
yeah.
Well, the running joke is if you start working at Feed and Seed, it will take you 3 weeks to figure out what doorways where, and 2 weeks is a push or pull.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, all the doors lead to the same place. It doesn't matter what door. Sometimes I go in there and be like, I've never been in this room. And then I'm like in the room I need to be in.
I just didn't realize. I mean, talk a little bit more about, because when you told me about the sweet potato, keep going back to that farmer was going to waste that crop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd like to really divulge into that. So I'm familiar with the A crop, B crop stuff. I've bought peaches from the Muser Research Farm out in Clemson.
Yep.
And the ones that I get are like the ground peaches, right? So that they're B grade.
And they can't actually legally sell those.
And
So I buy
B
them
grade just means they're not pretty.
Well, not pretty, but in
for
the
peaches. That means they were hit the ground.
they hit
right?
the ground, and by law they cannot sell those peaches. So there's
Perfectly
they
fine
can't
and
sell
healthy
they
to
can't
eat.
sell it retail. They can't sell it wholesale.
But I buy them, process them, and
he can do it.
But so
But
how
they're
do
perfectly
you?
healthy and fine, right?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong.
It's the same rules for apples too.
There might be a little mushy, but for my application, that's what I'm looking for. But so how does something that grow on the ground, like a sweet potato, that didn't fall from it, unless sweet potato trees became a thing in the past 6 minutes, what really justifies besides it looking ugly?
Ugly.
That's it. That it like there is no loss of benefit from a health standpoint.
No.
It's just ugly.
It's just ugly, and and then
That's bullshit.
and
I mean,
then-
it just.
And they get less money
That
for that.
whole thing just blew my mind to
Well,
the
I
point
mean,
of, like,
and
I just
there-
don't get it.
What's the fluctuation in cost difference?
I think it depends on the product. Another farm we work with is Cragmore Farm,
crazy.
which is in Spartanburg, District 6. And it is an organic farm that Spartanburg School District 6 actually runs. And they, because of the heat this summer, they had a massive squash and zucchini crop. And they do get that produce back into their school system, but they're like, we can only do but so much squash. And guess what? The kids aren't in school, so we have all this squash and nobody to eat it. So they brought it to us, and we sliced and flash froze it. We've got a blast chiller that can take something from 140 to -40 in 30 minutes. So we put it through the Roboku and sliced them, flash froze them,
And this is just racks
and
of trays.
just racks and
rolled
trays.
into this walk-in
Yep.
freezer.
And then rolled right back out, and then packaged them. And then a couple of weeks ago,
What's the shelf life on those?
I think 12 to 16 months.
Months. So a year.
a year. But so once
And
school,
that's, you got to keep them in the freezer.
they got to stay in the freezer.
Yeah.
So once they, no, freeze dried is 18 months, like our little freeze dried fruit. So, but once school was in and they had kids eating there, they came and picked up their squash. Otherwise, they were like, I don't know what I'm going to do with the squash.
All right, I want to dive back into this A and B thing because it's still blowing my. It's absolutely blowing my mind. Do they do
If you're
this?
listening, go to YouTube and watch this.
Do they do this with all like fruits, vegetables? Obviously, anything that grows on a tree, I can understand hits the ground. I can see a sanitary impact of that, but
That's
like,
a bee.
and
That's
why?
a beautiful looking sweet potato.
Like if I saw this on the shelf, I would buy it. You cut the ends off, you peel it. Give me the A. Where's the A? I'm gonna buy this over this because I want the velocity, of this sweet potato.
How fast is it moving?
This is gonna feed me. This is gonna feed me and 1.5 persons.
You and Jen.
Yeah, like now I don't gotta buy 2 because 2 is too much. Does it happen with all vegetables?
they're charged.
So zucchinis. If a zucchini's big and ugly,
Crooked.
Charged by weight, right?
they just out here discriminating against a crooked zucchini.
If you go to Publix, though, you're going to pay for this per pound.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, and you'll pay per pound us. Catch is, we won't charge you tax because we're a nonprofit.
Interesting.
So all your food taxes, you don't have to pay.
Yeah. So okay, that's a
And who
good.
cares if it's ugly? You're gonna peel it, chop it, and that's just what's blowing my mind. Is no matter what it is, you're gonna take it home. Actually, I lied. I haven't peeled a potato in about 4 years because you just boil them and mash them.
Potato.
So but like you're gonna take this home, peel it, and cut it up anyways. Like, what does it matter what it looks like?
Well, I mean, look, I think there's a whole box program called Ugly Food or Ugly Fruit or Ugly Vegetables that you kind of like HelloFresh or whatever, something like that. We just
you guys should rip that off.
So quite honestly, what we carry in our market currently is 50-50 ugly pretty because there are people who shop with their eyes.
Sure.
And
that's human,
it's human nature. And especially since we've all been walking through any of the grocery store chains that's in your neighborhood. I mean, that is what we were trained. Unless you grew up on a farm and you picked up that weird mealy zucchini that, it doesn't look, but once you saute it, it's not mealy anymore.
Yeah. Look, I'm cheap. I shop with my wallet. I don't care what anyone says.
You just reminded me of a huge piece of kind of your business we haven't talked about yet is the affordability of it. And, the non-tax because of the five, your nonprofit, but also like the mission of trying to give really good food, quality local food to people that don't have a ton of money. You think Whole Foods, you think it's 3 times as expensive as a
whole
grocery
paycheck.
store.
That's what we called it in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's really expensive. And it's
Have you never heard that?
It's trendy and whatever it is. We're not, but you're doing it for $2.
Yeah.
Diced butternut squash.
8 ounces of diced butternut squash.
$5 for a cut up. That's 2 or 3 sweet potatoes.
I think that's
cut
a
up.
pound.
So we're talking about extremely affordable. How do you?
That's 20 ounces. That's a pound and a half.
It's pre-processed.
I know for a fact the equipment, the facility, the people, the payroll, all of the things that it costs you, the business, to bring these things in, wash them, peel them, cut them, store them, prepare the staff. All of that's money. How do you do that so affordably?
We do it affordable because it's fair. That's important to us. So our market...
It's almost like below market.
It is. So our market is SNAPY BT qualified, which means that we can take stamps. We also are the only small retail grocery that takes Healthy Bucks.
Not familiar with that.
What's a
So
healthy
bucks is if you buy $5 worth of produce, fruit or vegetables, whole. It does have to be whole. Using your Snappy BT card, you get $20 worth of whole fruit and vegetables, and then we get reimbursed by the state. They do it at a lot of the farmers markets and places like that, but we're the first small retail
So
place.
if I come in and spend $5 on my EBT card
buying produce
on ugly ass
potatoes,
sweet potatoes,
Delicious, healthy sweet potatoes.
then I buy $5 worth of sweet
you get
potatoes.
$20 worth of product.
That is insane.
And how?
And that's a state-funded program.
How do you do that other than you're just providing an amazing service to the community?
Well,
How do you without diving too much into like the finances of your business? I mean, the equipment and the thing, that's a lot of money you've invested into that.
A lot of grants.
Yeah.
And years of cultivating those grants, and it can be tough because we've had a lot of challenges between COVID and social inequalities and affordable housing and affordable health care. It's really hard to make a ugly sweet potato sexy when you are competing with some very dire needs within the community.
Can you make a T-shirt that says "Make ugly sweet potatoes sexy"?
I think that's Cousin's job.
Hey, send me a text. Someone remind me because I'll
Make ugly sweet potatoes sexy again.
I don't know why that's. I mean, really, just anything, right? Like make ugly
Because
vegetables.
if we cut this in half, it looks perfect,
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
and it's huge.
And to Cousin's point,
you're gonna do this with it anyway. So I mean,
well, yeah, you're going to buy this stuff, but I buy my produce at it's convenient, and I want to support the nonprofit that I work so hard for, but I know where this stuff comes from. So like when I buy carrots, I don't peel them because I know the ground that they came from. I wash them. Sweet potatoes,
The rusticness
potatoes.
it almost looks more.
Well,
appealing.
but if they're, I know the dirt in the region, so I know they're not on a 5,000 acre carrot farm where they have been bred to survive or sprayed to survive or watered to survive, whatever it is. But,
I don't know if I've ever not peeled a carrot. Why do we peel carrots?
Why do you peel a carrot? And what do you do with those peels? You throw them in the
away.
trash.
But that's just a piece of a carrot.
Some people put them in their garbage disposal and then clog their sink.
Sounds like a man speaking from experience.
That goes back to because I know where the stuff comes from. So it's like all you need to do is really wash them. It's just like
peeling it because the cleanliness because it was grown in the dirt.
I don't know why you peel your carrots. I never peel my carrots anymore.
That's another check mark I'm going to put on. Like I said, I haven't peeled a potato in 5 years because I just wash it.
You just got to wash it.
And I love
maybe
a
get one of
potato
those little
skin.
brushes if you really want to get into the fingernails
I
of it.
take 2 potatoes and I rub them together, and that works really well.
I am impressed at how much you cook, cousin.
Oh, I cook a lot.
Then
I love
you need
cooking.
to be shopping more.
I do.
So you got
Don't try to run my tab up anymore. It's already high enough.
I don't run your tab up. You run your tab up.
kind of thinking about
Brad hasn't stood a chance in this conversation.
How do you know what really runs my tab up? Is buying. They do these pre-made meals. Well, the cookies do. They do these pre-made meals, right? Like you just buy them. They're like a Stouffer's, but it's local, and they do like lasagnas, and they did a chicken parm once. They do a
Chicken
meatloaf.
parm's coming back. Meatloaf, chicken parm.
And they just
lasagna.
come like they keep them in the freezer. You just take them home, thaw them, put them in the oven. You're done. Local made, not a Stouffer's. It's like a Stouffer's, but it was made next door. And I don't got to go to the box store. I just walk.
So we're it's a convenient time in society as people are being more conscious, I think, of their health overall. They're more conscious of where does my food come from. We went into such an agricultural transition where it's like the big box store, cheap as possible.
And we can never.
Although you've really accommodated the affordable price, how is it? How can people be involved in what you're doing? If somebody in Greenville is really hears this and says, "This is amazing," how can I volunteer? How can I donate? How can I help the mission and initiative that you're focused on? How can people be involved?
Well, and to be fair, I mean, I don't mean to diss the big box stores, but
I do, on the record.
Well, I personally do, but I understand their audience a little bit more than I did before.
Sure.
But unfortunately, what that has created is an unrealistic expectation. They've got a purchasing power that and Ingalls won't even have.
And not even with product, but with property.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's the downside of it all is it's more convenient to shop big box than local because for 90% of America, you have to go out of your way for local. Yeah. And I'm of the 10% who will go out of their way for the local. And I know there is a lot of, there's another 10%, 9% or whatever. Math.
Well, we won't go to the math. But back to what you were asking. Shop. Come and shop with us. Come and volunteer with us. Come and have a tour. Come donate.
You can donate. Can you donate on your website?
You can.
Yep.
We're going to link everything in the bottom.
feedandseedsc.com. I love giving tours because it's
she will literally give a tour if you come by yourself. And you're just like, man, what do you guys do here? Mary's there. You're in. You're going to go see the back. Come out to Judson Mill.
Judson Mill. We're hidden. We're on Easley Bridge Road. You can't see our facility from the road. Look for 2nd Avenue.
Ask your grandfather. He worked there.
Yep. And if you're going to Google us, like on your map apps, put in Feed and Seed. Don't put in our address. Put in Feed and Seed. That'll bring you straight to our door. But we are really proud of what we have achieved. It has been a challenge. We have had failures. We have had hiccups. We are finally starting to make inroads. I mean, considering that our first location was 2016, pulling the plug on this project in 2019, we were supposed to open in spring of 2021, and we all know what happened in the world that time. We opened in April of 2022. Luckily, we had a fabulous grant from Appalachian Regional Commission that helped us purchase all of our equipment for our commissary kitchen, commercial kitchen, freeze dryers, dehydrators, blast chillers. We've had amazing support, but we would really appreciate continued support for what we're trying to achieve here.
We're going to link it all below, but we're unfortunately out of time. It's been amazing to have you.
I am flattered, y'all. I hope I didn't bore you.
No, this was great.
No, this is awesome. And
somehow or another, we ended up on Hookers on Main Street, but
that's okay. That's part of it. Cheers, guys.
Mary Hipp, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast, as it is being your neighbor.
Everybody go see Feed and Seed.
Yeah, come out to Judson Mill.
And go have a beer. And go have a beer.
Support the entire Judson Mill complex, because there's great things to happen this next 2024.
And very soon you'll be able to close your tab on Tabbi at Magnetic South. Maybe at Feed and Seed.
Maybe at Feed and Seed. We'd love to have that.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, y'all.